Hey there, everybody. Welcome to week 4 of our First Timothy series. That means that we are halfway through this study. I'm so glad that you are a part of it with everyone else who's digging into this. I'm so glad that you're circling up with your group. This week's sermon continues a little bit into explaining our understanding of the text and what led us and what led our elder board to affirm that women can be fully included in leadership, that they can serve in and occupy any position of leadership at Autumn Ridge. That's not the major focus of this week's sermon and what we're focusing on in this passage, but it's there a little bit. And I would imagine that some of you are really looking forward to and anxious to get some of the resources that our elder board wants to put together for you. That's coming. I would ask you to be a little bit patient with it. These are all guys who work full-time in other careers, but they're working on putting that together for you. And we have some all-church family meetings coming up relatively soon where we can talk together. We're going to get those dates to you as soon as we have them finalized. And the way that we should be thinking about this is we're really at the entry point, at the front end of a all-church conversation, and we want you to be a part of that. In this week's message notes, I included resources that if you want to dig into for further study, that might be helpful for you. Some of the things that are books for those of you who love to read, a podcast and some videos for those of you who would rather be able to engage something on the go. So I hope that's incredibly helpful for you. This week we turn our attention to the task of leadership. And Paul says, whoever desires to be an overseer, whoever desires to be a leader in the church, and that word overseer is used in place of elder or in place of pastor. Those are 3 distinct words that are used interchangeably, all trying to communicate one type of office, one type of leadership position in the church, kind of coming at it from different angles. And he says, you desire a noble task. This is a good thing. And one of the things that we notice over and over again throughout the New Testament is that the biblical writers, we're talking especially about the Apostle Paul and the Apostle Peter, they're the ones who wrote about those positions the most, is they don't emphasize titles and they don't emphasize positions as much as they emphasize the responsibility of what's being done. And we got to walk through together, what does church leadership look like? I hope that was meaningful for you. I hope you enjoyed talking about that. But one of the things that we did is we kind of paused at the beginning, and I had this window on stage, and I said, we really have to lean in. We have to choose which side of the window we're going to be on. Here's the easiest thing in the world to do. The easiest thing in the world to do is to read the Bible through the lens or look through the window of my past experiences, all of my kind of preconceived ideas and the beliefs that I've formed already, my experience with church, everything that I've seen, and I'm reading the Bible through that window. But really the goal is to flip that around and to truly see what biblical writers were trying to communicate, and then look through the window at all of our experiences, our encounters with church leadership, our encounters with church, all of those things, and then to evaluate all of those things through the lens. Let God's Word be the window through which we evaluate. And that takes work. We got to slow down and we got to really dig in. It's something that everybody can do, but it's something that can only be done on purpose. It doesn't happen accidentally. It only happens intentionally. And I really want to challenge us. I want us to be a church that says, yes, we're going to do that. We're going to resist the gravitational pull of cognitive bias. We're going to be more like scientists and less like snipers. And if you saw the message, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And so we're digging in and we want to study because we want to understand this life that Jesus gave his life so that we could have. We want to better understand Jesus, and we want the best possible church experience that we can have. Now, one of the things that we notice as we go through this chapter and we're looking at leadership is that the Apostle Paul, at the end, he doubles down on the gospel again. In chapter 1, he does this. In chapter 2, he does this. In chapter 3, he does this. The gospel is a thread that runs through everything. He's constantly doing gospel fluency. This is the content of the gospel. These are the implications of the gospel. And this is what motivates us to live out the gospel. And by the time we get to the end of chapter 3, not only are we talking about leaders in the church, we find that we're talking about everybody. and really what we should all be looking to and we should all be aspiring to. One of the things that we've said over and over in our church is leadership is a destination of discipleship. Not everybody's going to be in a position of leadership, and that's okay. But every single follower of Jesus should embrace a disposition of leadership, because we want to use the opportunities we have and the influences we have to help other people take a step towards Jesus or take their next step with Jesus. So as you talk together as a group, would you talk about the expectations of what leadership should look like, and if that's lived out, what it should do to our levels of trust? I want you to talk about what it is that you are aiming at. Have you paused and thought about, this is what I'm aiming at. This is what I want to be like. One of the things we've emphasized over the past number of weeks in our church is what it means to be fully devoted. Going back to our devoted series, we want to be with Jesus and we want to be like Jesus so that we can do as Jesus did. Really, that's exactly what the Apostle Paul is doing in 1 Timothy chapter 3. He's fleshing out for us. He's getting really specific. He's getting really practical. And this is what it means to be like Jesus and do as Jesus did as we interact with each other. I hope you have a fantastic conversation, and I look forward to seeing you again next week.